year of 2020, aka the year of Lady Tao, gave us the one shot of Gokurakugai from Yuto Sano. I saw the cover for this series and knew it would bang. Just looking at Miss Tao's character design instantly gave off a vibe of,
I love the kind of woman that can kick my ass.
Me being a huge Black Lagoon fan starving for that same amount of rawness, this appeared right up my alley. The one shot had everything you could ask for in a manga. Guns, drugs, mermaid trafficking, and I enjoyed the one shot a great amount, and the potential of the series going forward was enough to feed my Revy-loving appetite. Years later, I found out that Gokurakugai was getting scooped up by Shonen Jump, and I was ecstatic, but at the same time skeptical. On one hand, I was like, fuck yeah, a constant flow of Miss Tao on my Shonen Jump app, but on the flip side, I knew they were going to water that shit down, and to some degree they did. The main character, Alma, seems like a totally different character now. In the one shot, he was a YN and Miss Tao's shooter ready to blam a nigga to being Itadori 2.0, which isn't a huge of a deal because I love Itadori, but he don't have that dog in him. With that being said, it has been shonen up and does tread that line of being generic, but in the more recent chapters, it has been gaining its own identity back. So I won't give you a full synopsis of the entire series because that'll take a minute.
Read that shit yourself, it's good game.
But rather, I'll fill you in on how we got to our current point in the story. So after a big plot point dealing with Miss Tao, she tasked the boy with the bangs, I forgot bro's name, to find her some info of the big bads of the series. Come to find out, they find 6 men bleeding out of every orifices, including the Schmeat, another dead 13 people randomly starving to death, and finally 42 people crushed to death even though they weren't under no heavy structures. The patterns were too apparent not to look into. Deaths later. Changing scenes to our boy Alma, it appears his restaurant tab exceeded over 1,000,000 yen, so he decides to help out and work that shit off. This leads him to the restaurant worker Yaya, sending him off to do deliveries. He then delivered the food to this dude named Maki's house, who we've previously met before. He was disappointed to see Alma at his door instead of Yaya, and someone in the background of his crib was like, "Who the fuck is Yaya?" So, oh shit, I can see where this is going. That aggy-ass voice went completely over Alma's head and told bro his crib was dirty as fuck last week, but it's clean now. Your mom's in there? Maki then pulled Alma close and whispered to him that he had an old lady in the house, so she asked him could they celebrate their 1-week anniversary. So he went crazy on the DoorDash today. Fast forwarding to 5 days later, Alma's tab's not nearly done being paid, so he's still trying to pay that shit off. So the restaurant gets a call and Yaya lets him know that Maki wants him to deliver more food, cause if a girl come through with the eats, then his girlfriend going to be a D1 crash out, and based on the little we know of her at this point, that ain't good look. So Alma makes his way to Maki's apartment, and the first thing you see is this nigga all fucked up with a bloody nose and band-aids on his face. Turns out this wasn't a food run, but a cry for help.
Oh, the homegirl abusive.
And then we see her. Then her fine abusive ass come in speaking in third person talking about why are you running away from Utsu, which is a good ass question, cause if it was me, I'm diving into that. Alright, let's dial it back. I lost myself for a second, but anyway, this girl is off for a rocker. Cause how this shit started is she got mad at him for looking at other girls.
Bit excessive, but I guess.
But no, she's referring to the news anchor lady on the TV. Maki tells her she's number one, and she turns it around on him and says, if I'm number one, then that means you have other bitches under her. At this point, this ain't even a red flag, but a crimson billboard. Cause there's just no way she tripping like this. She attempts to stab Maki over this, but Alma catches her hand and tries to calm her down. He asks her, do she actually want him dead? And with tears running down her face, she flat out says, Cause if Maki dies, she belongs to him forever. You know, typical yandere shit. Alma then give them some couple counseling, but it didn't pan out how he'd like. Usu now have a crush on Alma cause that counseling riz was just too thorough, my boy. Some more days pass by and Maki ain't learned shit and still looking at dumpers, and resulted in him getting punched in his nose again. But at this point, it finally clicked with Maki that he should change and be a better boyfriend to Utsu, and he finally fallen for her and confesses love. She brings him in for a passionate kiss. Wow, what a romantic conclusion to this arc. he started bleeding from all his orifices. I wasn't too surprised by this, but the one real shocking part was that she kissed like 6 niggas this past month alone. This girl is a certified bop. Pouring out for the bro Maki, never to be heard from again. And to no surprise, she moves on from him with the swiftness onto our guy Alma. Just cause he offered her a pack of tissue. Call my man's Alma Dennis, cause he can't keep getting away with this. After questioning every woman Alma has a relationship with, eventually she manipulates him into taking her out on a date. You know, typical mentally ill baddie behavior. And while on the date, Tao asks Yaya for Maki's home address because she gotten word that Utsu was a manga, not that kind. So she goes to his apartment, and what meets her is, of course, Maki's stinking corpse laying in the middle of the floor. Scene swap to this one-sided romantic date with Alma and Utsu. He was so distracted by his first date that he spent all his bread on this girl. Can't be out here tricking my boy. So afterwards, they chilling on his park bench, and the main reason he agreed to this date in the first place was to be nice, and that's what's, to my understanding, what was agreed upon. But now she doesn't want to go home and cling on to Alma some more. She confesses her love some more, and Alma obviously doesn't feel the same way. And he says,
"We can be friends instead."
Now, I don't know why he said that while this crazy broad is this close. So her whole personality did a 180, and she said,
"We can't be just friends."
And she stabs him. She pretty much opened all 8 gates in the Yandere pathway system and was dead set on taking this man out. Then reveals that someone else is after Alma and thought she would get killed going after him. But since she loves him, she won't let anyone else take him away. So she confirms that she's working under Yomi. And if you don't know who Yomi is, just think of him as the Muzan of this series. Same exact concept, but more stylish. So the two squabbled for a bit, and Alma was taking a beating until she snatched his chain, and he turned up and got the upper hand. Mid-fight, he finds out that she can't regenerate nearly as fast when wet. She spouts out some more Yandere nonsense until Tao comes in and saves the day and puts a stake in her chest, rendering her unconscious. Next chapter, Alma is getting patched up in the infirmary, and we find out that his regen ability is slowed down by Utsu's blood loss powers. He is then requested to attend the interrogation room. There have been some complications. The guy in charge of the interrogation seemed to take big pride in his job, because what he did to Utsu in this room had me shocked. I don't even know if I can show this panel on YouTube, but let's just say the next man she decides to kiss, that shit gonna be a little crooked. Turns out the torturing didn't do anything good cause she refused to talk to bro. She ride or die for real. Turns out she won't talk to anyone but Alma, hence why he's called down here. And despite her not having any limbs left, she is ecstatic to see bro. And I can't lie, that shit warmed my heart a bit. Maybe, just maybe,
He can fix her?
nah. So Alma asked her about Yomi's plan and goals, and she didn't try to deflect asking him about their previous date. This led to Alma crashing out rather quickly, and then he starts dropping some bars on her. I won't go as far to call this a talk no jutsu, but it was pretty effective. And for the first time, we see Utsu act normal, and she complied and snitched about Yomi. We find out that his plans are to grow a family full of manga.
Not that kind.
As I mentioned earlier, to think of Yomi as the Muzan of Gokurakugai, he has the ability to create demons from corpses, but on the rare occasion, they take on human form, like Utsu's for example, and those are who are eligible to join this family. She then gives a quick rundown to some who's a part of this manga family. One of them is a character you encounter earlier in the story, and his thing was strangling women to death. A guy with a burn mark on his face that always smiling. Some weird kid who always has the munchies. Please don't be a cannibal. And some girl who's always next to Yomi, possibly has abandonment issues. The vibe this gave me is that the quirks probably has something to do with how they died. Just a hunch, but we shall see how this pan out later in the chapters. And the last guy she mentions brings us to where we are now in the series. The guy that crushes people to death. Safe to assume he has some Fujitora type powers going on, so he's gonna be a handful, I'd imagine. So bro killed a bunch of construction workers, which led the boss of the company to ask Tao and Alma for help since the cops won't do anything. The old man then tells them about a mansion they were tasked to demolish, and apparently demolition companies avoided it because they hear on top of that the owner of the mansion and their servants all mysteriously died in the house. After hearing the old man's story, Tao took the job short after. Alma and Tao make their way to the mansion and they meet up with one of my favorite design characters in the entire manga, Nei.
Is it Knee or Nay? I don't know. I'm gonna just call it Nay.
Wait, both sides confused why the other are even at this location, and Nei reveals that this is her house. Now let's rewind for a small sec. At the end of the previous chapter, we see a broken picture frame with a small child on it, and what do you know? The child looks a lot like Nei. And given all the info we know to this point, this can only mean one thing: a vengeance plot. One thing about me is that I love a good Avenger character. Other than her sparring session with Alma early in the story, Nei hasn't had a too big impact on the story so far until now. So they still standing in front of the haunted mansion explaining to Nei why are they there, and tells her it is for a troubleshooting gig they picked up. Nei then expresses that she's afraid to go to the house because of her past trauma, because it was indeed her family that was brutally murdered inside that house. While crossing the caution tape, Alma then tells Nei that the crushing death manga may be in the potential culprit to these killings, and this lit a fire under Nei, and she decides to tag along to find answers while still a bit afraid. While scourging inside the house, they decide to split up the party to cover more ground. Worst thing you can do on an adventure is split the party. Y'all never play D&D? Nei and Alma head further in, and they are then met with some old man that appears to be looting the house. Bro really tried to catch an easy lick. Alma tells Nei to let him rock cause this stuff hasn't been touched in 10 years. After they little back and forth, they turn around and bro has already been crushed.
Whole head is gone.
So they are super close to getting into a fatal fade with this manga. Next chapter, both parties get ambushed by Father Manga, and Alma tells Nei to check the second floor while he holds it down here since she knows the house better than anyone. This split up led Nei into the sinister psycho himself, and I ain't gonna lie, this man is talking real greasy like he anticipate getting packed up by a little Avenger here. She asked him why is he here, and he responded basically like, what's with all this small talk? I thought you hated me. Then he said the rage from me killing your family must have faded away these past 10 years. And this is what needed to be said just to get her in that mode to end this man's life. But is she capable? All the precious moments she's had with her family in the past replayed in her head right before she's in the war mode. In the next moment, she cuts bro head off, zero hesitation. Love her killer instinct in this moment, but of course he regens and tries to drop structure on top of her head, but she was swift and cuts it in half, and it still made the floor collapse. With every sequence of this fight, a loving memory popped in her head to give her the motivation to avenge her family, and it was so well done. It was going well up until he tried to drop the bed on her head that Nei and her mother used to sleep in when she was little, and this distracted her long enough for him to take advantage and give her a devious kick to the face. Standing over her, and what looks like to be his final blow to her, he sees a younger version of her cowering on the floor, and he hesitates. He suddenly has second thoughts on killing her and says, "Here I thought I had finally cleared the game. Give me my 10 years back." This could mean a million different things, but what it did accomplish is to get me more invested. What is this connection with Nei, and why did he do what he did to her family? She then rushes him, and then as she charges, he shatters her sword with a random skull behind her. Nonetheless, she has no weapon to fight with, and he drops the pillar on her back. From the impact that dropped on her, I thought she'd be paralyzed by this, but she finds that stubborn strength within her and stand asking why he killed her family, and he says, "Blame your dad." And also added that everyone in this family were scum is the reason why he killed them. And I get from a narrative standpoint why you wouldn't want to reveal everything all at once and have us want more, and it worked on me. I can't even cap. But I still can't help but find his response cringy and over edge, but I'll let bro rock. Nei is asking the real questions here and says, if you hate everyone so much to kill them, then why save me then and just now? And he had the best response imaginable here. Hell if I know. And then he leaves. After he tries to aura farm and leave the building, he then collapsed the entire room on top of Nay, knowing it won't kill her cause Alma is there at the perfect time to body block it. And understandably so, Nay then passes out due to all the injuries she sustained through this fight, and the chapter ends. So we get to the final page in the chapter. It shows a younger version of Nay and the edgy gravity nigga sitting across from each other. This tells me that they knew each other in the past, and for some reason he took a liking to her, but not her family. I think this plot point can easily be turned into shit if not done well, but I trust in Yuto Sano to deliver on some heat. I'm putting a good bit of stock into this manga along with Chainsaw Man, so hopefully me and other Gokurakugai fans can be eating good off of this current arc. But overall, I'm really enjoying this arc because it puts some horror elements and some suspenseful thriller in there, which you don't see often in shonen. So with that aspect alone, kind of sets it apart without being too cliche to modern day writing. All in all, I like where this is going, and I hope Nate gets her get back and give this guy what he wants. A nice and uncomfortable body bag with a dookie smeared tombstone.